Hi everyone, my name is Georgia Bostock and I'm doing a quick presentation on how to manage the expectations of stakeholders in projects. So firstly, what is a stakeholder? The project management body of knowledge defines a stakeholder as a person or organisation that is actively involved in the project, has interests that may be positively or negatively affected by the performance or completion of the project, and may exert influence over the project. So what is the importance of managing stakeholder expectations? Part of a successful project is having met all stakeholder expectations. Managing the expectations of stakeholders is an important responsibility of a project manager. It allows you to identify stakeholder issues and concerns quickly, and to resolve them swiftly and in a manner which benefits the project and the stakeholder. By determining the expectations of the various stakeholders, you'll be able to gain understanding of how they can affect the project. For example, the legal department is a stakeholder in majority of projects. If there is a late recognition of the legal department as a stakeholder, delays and increased legal expenses could result before the project can be completed or the product scope delivered. Because stakeholders have varying or different objectives, it is the project manager's responsibility to ensure that these interests and objectives are balanced. There are multiple stakeholders for each project, and thus they all have their own needs and expectations for the project that need to be met. Expectations are shaped by both reality and perception. In an ideal project, both the reality and perception of project objectives are aligned among all stakeholders. There are many influences that can alter the expectations during the life cycle of the project, and it is the project manager's challenge to guide the real performance of the project, whilst trying to balance the perception of each stakeholder. The first step in managing stakeholder expectations is obviously to identify the project stakeholders and create a register. The stakeholder register will provide a list of all the stakeholders and describes and classifies them. Stakeholder identification is an ongoing process throughout the entire project lifecycle. Identifying stakeholders will allow project managers to identify what the requirements are and who can provide the information on these requirements. Their influence, positive or negative, should also be addressed. This assessment should also be used to confirm the project communications needed in order to properly support each stakeholder and their expectations. When identifying stakeholders, try to see through their eyes. Look at the project from their perspective. What do they see? What do they need? And what are they thinking? Communication is key when it comes to managing stakeholder expectations. Successful communications approach will mean success in managing expectation and minimizing surprises and conflicts. After first establishing who the stakeholders are and their role in the project, you should identify the preferred method of communication for the stakeholder. Doing so ensures the stakeholder remains satisfied. The most effective and efficient method of communication is face-to-face, and all outcomes of communication should be followed up in writing to summarize the agreeing actions. Status meetings are powerful tools for improving project communications and thus managing expectations. It is a good idea to implement a communications management plan and identify the following. Who should receive project communications? What communications should they receive? Who should send the communications? How will the communication be sent? How often such communication will be updated, and the definition of common understanding of communication terms. The project manager should have good interpersonal management and communication skills, as communication is one of the keys to successfully managing stakeholder expectations and project success. Being able to negotiate conflicts helps to ensure that stakeholders, especially those with high levels of interest and influence, remain happy and informed. Stakeholders will not continue to support you if you don't communicate and project issues or changes with skills and the right documents. The project manager's ability to build trust and deliver messages clearly and positively influence stakeholders' perceptions and expectations about the project, which is why it is important that the manager has solid leadership, communication, management, and interpersonal skills. There is nothing that says I'm not a rookie or experienced more than a project manager who understands how important guiding expectations of stakeholders is. Throughout the life cycle of the project, the key stakeholders will need to be constantly reminded of the agreed project scope, and that any changes that occur will be done via the agreed change procedures. Make sure that the stakeholders are engaged in decision making so as they feel to have been involved in the process and that they've helped move towards their expectations of this project. This will also help to ensure that the expectations of the stakeholder are within the agreed project scope and are realistic. During establishment of the project scope, the initial scope is defined. The internal and external stakeholders who will influence the overall outcome of the project are identified. This will help to align the stakeholders' expectations with the project's purpose, give them visibility about the scope and objectives, and show how their participation in the project will help to ensure their expectations are achieved. When defining what is within the scope, it is also important to note what is outside the scope to help clarify understanding and expectations in regards to what is the outcome of the project. Issues and changes have the potential to affect and threaten any part of the project and its objectives, and any potential changes may also cause problems concerning communication. This can affect the stakeholders' expectations and interests. It is for this reason that a change or issue log is implemented in the process of stakeholder expectation management. Implementing a formal change control system helps to avoid issues and confrontations when changes occur, thus helping to manage stakeholder expectations. It is important to step through the change control processes with your stakeholder, whether or not you adopt an existing process or create your own. Just because the procedure is documented doesn't mean that people will understand it or their responsibilities within it. A key part of change control processes are formal sign-offs. A formal record or review and acceptance of a change to a deliverable will help to minimize disputes as well as keep expectations aligned. The implementation of a change control system is also beneficial towards managing stakeholders' expectations. The change control system is a formal method of ensuring that any changes to a product or system are introduced and controlled in a coordinated manner. As changes can affect any part of a project, it also has effect on aspects of communication which can in turn affect the interests of stakeholders. If a change in the project doesn't contribute to the project objectives as defined in the scope, stakeholders need to identify and understand the ramifications, and the final outcome could be impacted by these changes. The change control system, or the change log, is thus an important process in managing stakeholder expectations and avoiding any issues or confrontations. It is important that at the start of the project you step through this change process with the key stakeholders so that they understand it and their responsibilities. A mistake commonly made in projects and when managing expectations is selling or committing to requirements that cannot be met in the given project constraints. This is often done to make the customer happy and get business. It's much better to promise less and deliver more. Set realistic expectations, keep stakeholder perceptions and reality aligned, and communication is key. By successfully managing the expectations of stakeholders, you will have a successful project and become a successful project manager. Thank you.